Hello and welcome to the first in what hopefully will be a series of videos looking at various aspects of Equestria and the show My Little Pony. They'll probably range from just general analysis to big overarching themes to individual episodes. I cannot promise I will update at a regular basis. I unfortunately have a life outside of ponies, so updates will be sporadic, but I will try to update on a fairly regular basis. So in today's installment, I'm going to be looking at Celestia and Luna and proposing that they are going to be stepping down soon. Now this might seem like an odd assertion. Why would the two most powerful rulers in Equestria, in the entire MLP world to our knowledge, step down freely and willingly, which is what I believe? Why? Well, I'll tell you why. First, it seems like they are losing their magical ability. Now, this is not to say that they're becoming weak and enfeebled and can't do their job. Hardly. Raising the sun and the moon can be no small task. They clearly are some of the most powerful ponies or creatures in the land. Yes, Twilight, now that she's an alicorn, is probably more powerful than either of them. But Celestia went head-on-head with Chrysalis. Celestia's clearly got power, as does Luna. However, I feel they are losing their power, that it's diminishing. Now, why do I think this? Well, because there have been signs through the show that Celestia and Luna's magic isn't quite that which it once was. For example, Discord was able to break free. Now, it's true. Celestia and Luna had used the elements of harmony to defeat him, and Celestia admitted in that episode that her connection with the elements is broken. One would expect that this probably happened when Twilight and the crew became the bearers. Otherwise, you would have thought Discord would have escaped a lot earlier, since it probably would have been she'd lost it when she used them to banish Nightmare Moon. That would have been a really long time, so it seems most likely that she lost her connection when they gained them. But that was still a year then, that before Discord broke free. You would have thought, if it was just the elements containing him, that as soon as her connection was broken, he would have broken free. So it suggests, to me at any rate, that Discord was kept in place by the elements and Celestia's and Luna's magic, and he was able to break through them eventually and do his reign of chaos. However, you could argue that no, this is just due to the elements. Well, an example that has nothing to do with the elements is Sombra. It's clear from the Crystal Empire that Celestia and Luna were the ones to banish him. But they weren't using the elements. That's clear from the video. They were using their pure magic. So they banished Sombra for 1,000 years using their magic. Well, he broke free. And you can't blame the elements for that. So their magic seems to be declining. He was able to just break through their magic. And I mean, like I said, this isn't to suggest that they're becoming enfeebled, but their magic does seem to be going down. I mean, let's also not forget, Celestia was fairly easily overpowered by Chrysalis. And yes, it's true, Chrysalis was feeding off Shining Armor's love, but one would think that the most powerful ruler in the land wouldn't be defeated by the power of love, you'd think. Shining Armor must have really, really, really loved her for to give Chrysalis enough power to do that. Well, even writing that off, or mostly writing it off, it still seems like there's a general trend of their power diminishing. But this isn't even the main reason why I think Celestia and Luna will step down. There's a more fundamental reason, which is that Luna's a ticking time bomb. Think about it. She, at one point, was no doubt happy. She had helped her sister defeat Discord to become ruler of the land. And then, because ponies weren't appreciating her knight, became bitter and ultimately turned into Nightmare Moon. What's to stop this from happening again? Yes, the elements have removed that bitterness from her heart. But even if they totally remove the bitterness from her heart, bitterness can still grow, can still enter. What's to stop it from happening again? There has to have been a fundamental change to keep Luna from getting bitter again. Now, there are several possibilities. Some people probably would point out the evil force argument, or that Luna was possessed by some sort of evil spirit or being that corrupted her and fed off her bitterness and enhanced her bitterness that caused her to go evil. And that wasn't herself per se, that so much as these forces amplifying that. Well, it's true that they look at this in the comic book, but it's not canon to the show to date. And even if it was, what's to stop the evil forces, short of them being destroyed, from re-entering Luna? There still had to be the seeds there for them to play off of. Well, let's ignore that for the moment. What fundamentally has changed to keep Luna stable, to keep her from re-going down this path? I mean, since fundamentally it was the fact that the night wasn't appreciated, is the night any more appreciated now? Oh yes, ponies like Twilight seem to really like the night, but most ponies still seem to relish in playing the day and sleep during the night. Nothing fundamental has changed. Well, I suppose the most fundamental thing that has changed is that there's now Nightmare Night, a holiday condemning, I guess is the best word, her alter ego. I mean, they don't seem to appreciate the night anymore. So, she doesn't seem to have any more duties. She doesn't seem to have a new hobby. She really doesn't seem, though, to have any more jobs to do. I mean, yes, she's helping dreamers, but one gets the sense that that's always been her duty. This isn't a new thing for her. Furthermore, we can point out this will only happen to Scootaloo. There's no indication whether that this actually happened or this was all in Scootaloo's head. But we'll assume it actually happened. One would imagine it was always her duty. But in times, Luna has actually tried to play a more active role and have tried to help. Celestia has rebuffed her. Think about the Crystal Empire. She wanted to go with Twilight and help, but Celestia said no. She doesn't seem to have any more things to give her life meaning than she did before. So what's to keep her from going crazy again? What's to stop her from reverting? Ponies don't appreciate her night, and she doesn't seem to have anything else tethering her down. I mean, it's possible Celestia intends to play whack-a-mole with Luna, so that whenever she turns to Nightmare Moon, just use the elements to squish. But that's kind of cruel, and not only is that cruel, it's stupid. What if Luna, before she turns to Nightmare Moon, hides one of the elements, or waits until one of the bearers of the elements dies, or kills one of them? What's to stop Nightmare Moon then? Nightmare Moon's unstoppable. She's putting the fate of Equestria on Luna being a complete moron. That does not seem like a good call to me. So it just strikes me as unlikely Celestia is going to do something that's cruel and dubious at best as its likelihood to work. She could also be counting on guilt. Possibly she was expecting Luna to be subservient and docile now that she's gone off the deep end. Use that guilt to keep her in check. Now, this has some merit. Guilt is a very, very, very effective tool, as pretty much anyone can attest. The problem is, guilt is only effective until it stops being effective. At some point, guilt just stops working. At some point, people grow tired of feeling guilty about something. Most of us have probably had something we felt guilty about, and then the one person who kept insisting that on rubbing it in would constantly be reminding us. Maybe it was a sibling, maybe a parent, maybe an aunt, who knows. But even if you don't, imagine you did something fairly major, but not that major, when you were young, and then your sibling kept bringing it up. You did it when you were 5, and now you're 35, and they're still bringing it up and still saying you should feel guilty about this. You're not going to feel guilty. You're going to feel more annoyed and angry that you are supposed to still be feeling guilty about this and that they're still bringing it up. And so for Luna, this would take probably centuries, maybe even millennia. It might be 2,000 years. But at some point, Luna's going to say, that's the past. Why do I still have to feel guilty about it? Well, honestly, going on long enough, that could create exactly the kind of anger and resentment that Celestia is trying to avoid. That could cause the exact crisis Celestia is trying to prevent. It is not a good idea to rest upon guilt to keep Luna in check. So what's to keep her from going off the deep end? She's more ostracized than she was before. She doesn't fit in any better. I mean, Luna Eclipse made that clear. So what's to keep her tethered? Well, there is one answer that would keep Luna in check, and that is for her to be replaced. Thus, you don't need to worry about keeping her in check. She has no power. The problem with that is replacing Luna could cause exactly the kind of crisis Celestia is trying to avoid. Luna will know exactly why she's being replaced. I mean, imagine something like that happened to you. You screwed up, and the person said, that's okay, but then later down the road say, we appreciate all you've done, but, we found someone else to be able to handle this. So, you can go now. You know exactly what was going on, and you probably wouldn't take too kindly to it. You'd probably realize that they were doing this because they thought you were unreliable. And you probably wouldn't take kindly to it and probably be very angry. And that could very well happen to Luna. It could cause the exact kind of crisis that Celestia is trying to prevent. Luna would know that she was being replaced because of Nightmare Moon and that she's now untrustworthy and unreliable. So, to prevent that crisis, the only way Celestia can do that is to step down herself. If she steps down, it at least gives an air of plausibility to the it's not you, it's just, we're losing our magical connection, or a time for new rulers has begun, or something. But it won't be as obvious, and even if it is obvious to Luna that Celestia is stepping down as well so that Luna can be replaced, it means Luna's less likely to go bofo because Luna will know Celestia's sacrifice. It's kind of hard to be bitter when the other party sacrifices as well, and sacrifices just as great or greater than your own sacrifice. And furthermore, it just adds another layer of guilt that, Celestia stepped down because of me. And that guilt's not going to be rubbed in. So it seems likely that the only reasonable solution is for them both to step down. Now, if they were going to replace Luna, they're going to have to replace her with someone who has something that will tie them down to prevent them from going off the deep end. Something to prevent them from putting almost all their life's worth in their job. Some bond, something like friendship. Now, who's going to replace Luna? Well, a large proportion of bronies, I've certainly seen this proposed other places. I know I'm not the first to come up with this, but I think the pony who would replace Luna is Twilight. In fact, she makes almost more sense to replace Luna than... No, she does make more sense to replace Luna than anyone else. She's been built up for something big the entire show. I mean, one could argue that's the entire premise of the show. She clearly has very strong magical ability. She might be the most powerful alicorn or being in Equestria now. Furthermore, her cutie mark and name have more to do with night than they do with magic. She's a similar color scheme to Luna, keeping the same color symbolism. She still has some role to prepare for. Celestia said her studies are continuing, they've just changed. She's a princess, and I don't think the studying revolves around her learning her princessal duties. Twilight's a fast student, she'd pick that up. There's probably more to it there. But what's bigger than becoming a princess? Well, becoming a ruler of Equestria and raising the moon. So, she just makes sense. I can't think of another pony who could do that job. But the question then comes into who is going to replace Celestia. I've seen very few people even speculate of Celestia being replaced, and some focus on Twilight, but most seem to slate her for the moon. And I think that makes more sense than her taking control of the sun. And I've seen a couple people propose Cadence will replace Celestia. And while I think it's an interesting theory, I honestly don't think it's correct. Cadence doesn't seem to have any kind of skills or talents in anything relating to the sun. Her name has nothing to do with the sun, nor does her cutie mark. And the biggest problem with this idea is the fact that she already runs an empire. She already has an administrative role. She's princess of the Crystal Empire, which it feels like is a sovereign state separate from Equestria. They have great relations, mind you, but it feels like it's a separate state. I mean, yes, there's some debate about that since the Equestria Games were going to be held there. Why would you hold them in a non-part of the country? But at the same time, it's called an empire. That'd be kind of like calling the Massachusetts Empire. It doesn't quite make sense if it's part of you to give it its own separate name as an empire with its own separate ruler. So it's debatable. But she still has a massive role there. And considering how far away Cadence would be from one of her realms, you have to take a long train trip to get from Equestria to the Crystal Empire. Very rarely does that end well for one of the countries involved. There have been times where rulers have rule when one ruler has ruled 2 lands separated by a great distance, and generally they don't do a very good job ruling both lands. They do a good job ruling one, or can do a good job ruling one, but not both. Furthermore, she just seems to be a better fit for the Crystal Empire. Her cutie mark is a crystal heart. It was implied that she's the rightful heir. The Crystal Ponies called her the Crystal Princess. It seems likely that she is the legitimate ruler of the Crystal Empire. She's a descendant and is the rightful ruler to the throne. It seems like that's her place, not raising the sun. So it's not going to be Cadence. Who is it that is going to replace Celestia? Well, I have quite a theory about that. But this video is already approaching the 20-minute mark, and I'll save that for another time. So please, comment, like, subscribe if you enjoyed this, and tune in later to hear who I think will replace Celestia as Raiser of the Sun and ruler of Equestria. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.